This guide covers all the actions Dawntrail, Thaumaturge and Black Mage learns from level 1 to 50 in order. We go over how each action is meant to be used and recommend ways to use it when relevant. In the summary, we'll cover a detailed attack rotation for use at level 50 that encompasses all of the things you learned throughout this guide. Now then, Blizzard is your starting spell. I will refer to it as Blizzard 1 or even B1 for the sake of clarity. Using Blizzard 1 makes you enter the Umbral Ice state, signified by 1 to 3 blue shards in your elemental gauge, and the number of shards corresponds to the level of Umbral Ice you are in. To start, you only have access to the first stage, but later on, casting Blizzard 1 again will increase the level. The Umbral Ice 1 state causes your ice damage spells to recover 2500 MP per cast, makes fire and ice spells free, and causes fire spells to do 10% less damage. You simply spam this for now. As Black Mages have somewhat limited opportunities to actually move during combat, it may be helpful to learn about the concept known as slide casting. I have a short explaining the subject if you are interested. At level 2, you learn the spell Fire, which I will refer to as Fire 1 or even F1 for clarity. Using Fire 1 will make you exit the Umbral Ice state if you were in it, and otherwise will put you in the Astral Fire state. The Astral Fire 1 state causes your passive MP recovery to stop, doubles the cost of fire spells while making ice spells free, and increases the damage of fire spells by 40% and simultaneously causes ice spells to do 10% less damage. The important part is that your fire spells hit much harder than your ice spells. Naturally, Blizzard 1 also cancels Astral Fire before entering Umbral Ice. For now, you should cast Fire 1 until you can only cast Blizzard 1, after which you should switch to Blizzard 1 until you have full MP, then cast Fire 1 again. At level 4, you learn the ability Transpose. If you are in either Umbral Ice or Astral Fire, using Transpose will swap you to the first level of the opposite state. If you are not in a state, then Transpose does nothing. Whenever you need to switch state, use Transpose instead of casting Fire 1 or Blizzard 1 twice. A tip regarding Transpose is that it also resets the duration of your current state, so you could use it repeatedly out of combat to stay in a state, which is often better than not being in a state. At level 6, you learn the spell Thunder, or Thunder 1 for clarity, or even T1. This is an instant spell that does a good amount of damage and applies a damage over time effect, or DOT for short. Notably, you can only use Thunder while you have the effect Thunderhead, which Thunder spends upon use. Thunderhead is granted by entering a new state, meaning switching from no state to Umbral Ice or Astral Fire, or swapping between them, and it lasts 30 seconds. While abilities like Transpose don't have cast times, all actions apply a sort of animation lock where you cannot cast anything else, which takes about half a second and a bit depending on your latency. Abilities can be used while the global recast time of spells and weapon skills is still ticking, also known as the global cooldown or GCD. This means that it is often beneficial to fit abilities in the time after using an instant spell like Thunder, rather than after a long cast time spell like Blizzard 1 or Fire 1. For this reason, I recommend trying to finish your Astral Fire states and Umbral Ice states with Thunder 1, giving you room to use Transpose more smoothly, which leads to this natural sequence. Fire 1 6 times, then Thunder 1, Transpose, Blizzard 1 4 times, then Thunder 1, Transpose, repeat. However, when starting a fight from no state, lead with Blizzard 1, then Thunder 1, then Transpose into the previously mentioned loop. If you start a fight with a state, I recommend starting in Umbral Ice, and assuming you have full MP, use Thunder and Transpose immediately to Astral Fire. If you're not at full MP, instead use Blizzard 1 until you are full. It is worth mentioning that while it feels more clunky to do so, only casting Thunder when it is almost run out, or when there is a new target to apply it to, can be worth slightly more damage than using it to use Transpose smoothly. At level 8, you learn the role action and ability Addle, which causes your target to do less damage for a bit, with magical damage being reduced twice as much. The best time to use Addle is when you're expecting a large amount of damage from an enemy, especially if you know it will be magical. Good examples include when a boss is casting a party-wide attack or a large strike on the tank. At level 10, you learn the role action and spell Sleep. However, outside of extraordinary situations or perhaps solo situations, crowd control is rarely used at all, so you may never find this spell very helpful. It can be used in a tight spot to sometimes intercept and interrupt spellcasts from certain enemies if you really have to, but that is assuming they aren't also immune to sleep. Notably, the damage over time component of Thunder does not break sleep. At level 12, you learn the spell Blizzard 2 or B2, which does damage in an area of effect, or AoE for short, around your target, and just like Blizzard 1, makes you enter Umbral Ice or exit Astral Fire. Due to a longer cast time, Blizzard 2 beats Blizzard 1 on 3 targets, and is slightly better than Fire 1 on 4 targets, making it unnecessary to bother switching to Astral Fire. Blizzard 2 beats Thunder 1 completely on 7 or more targets, but that's assuming the enemy survives the full duration of Thunder 1. So for 4 or more targets, I recommend just using Blizzard 2. For 3 targets, you just replace Blizzard 1 with Blizzard 2, but perform the rotation as normal otherwise. At level 14, you learn the role action and ability Lucid Dreaming. If you end up in a situation where you're not in either state and are also completely out of MP, you can use Lucid Dreaming to recover, as it recovers 550 MP every 3 seconds, assuming you're not in the Astral Fire state. Given that you will visit the Umbral Ice state for at least around 12 seconds at a time, if you use Lucid Dreaming alongside Transpose as you switch into the state, you may be able to possibly get away with only using Blizzard 1 3 times before exiting the state, while still finishing with full MP. You don't lose anything for trying, and simply not exiting early if things don't pan out right. You need to enter Astral Fire with at least 9600 MP to be able to use Fire 1 6 times. At level 15, you learn the spell Scathe, which does instant damage that is unaffected by the effects of both Umbral Ice and Astral Fire. As such, even if its chance to do double damage is activated, a so-called proc, it will still be much weaker than Fire 1. The only benefit to using Scathe is that it is instant, so it is viable while on the move. As it does not benefit from Astral Fire in any way, using Scathe while in Umbral Ice at least allows your passive MP recovery to continue, which does help a little bit. It is worth mentioning that the ineffectiveness of this spell is to such a degree that a significant amount of Black Mages never use it. At level 18, you learn the spell Fire 2 or F2, which is a fire version of Blizzard 2 in every way. On 3 or more targets, use Fire 2 until you're low on MP, then use Thunder and Transpose, and switch to Blizzard 2 until you're full on MP, and then Thunder and Transpose again. Make sure to apply Thunder to different targets each time. Also at level 18, you learn the role action and ability Swift Cast, which allows you to skip the cast time of your next spell with a cast time. This can be useful to cast an extra spell while running, or to keep up the attack while you reposition. As this does not skip the global recast time of a spell, it doesn't really allow you to do more damage than you'd otherwise be able to. Like Transpose, it is beneficial to use this after a Thunder spell due to the instant spell giving you a window to weave it, as it is called. As Blizzard 2 and Fire 2 have longer cast times than the global recast timer, swift casting them can be an overall gain, but only if you weaved them after an instant like Thunder. At level 20, you learn the trait Aspect Mastery 2, which unlocks access to Umbral Ice 2 and Astral Fire 2, which have the following effects compared to their Stage 1 equivalents as shown. The key difference is that Astral Fire does even more damage, and Umbral Ice 2 recovers twice the MP. Using any of your Ice spells while in Umbral Ice 1 will advance you to Umbral Ice 2, and using any of your Fire spells while in Astral Fire 1 will advance you to Astral Fire 2. Using the opposite element will still reset you to no state, and Transpose will always switch you to the first level of the opposite state. As the first Blizzard 1 cast will still only recover 2500 MP, you will probably still need to cast Blizzard 1 at least 3 times per Umbral Ice state. At level 26, you learn the spell Thunder 2 or T2, which is an AoE alternative to Thunder 1. With 2 targets, I recommend using Thunder 1 and alternating targets whenever it happens to come up in your rotation. With 3 or more targets, I recommend simply using Thunder 2 instead. At level 30, you learn the ability Manaward, which puts a shield on you that, weirdly, does not cost any MP. When you expect big damage to come your way, use this. I would not recommend that you use it to eat avoidable damage, but I guess I cannot stop you from doing so just make sure to use it early if you do that. Also at level 30, doing your class quest line will eventually lead you to the Black Mage quest, which is available once you complete the main scenario quest, Sylph Management. Once you unlock the Black Mage, remember to equip your Soul Crystal to change into the Black Mage job. The starting action of the Black Mage is Manafont, which is an ability that is only usable in Astral Fire state, that essentially fully resets your Astral Fire state, granting you full MP, a fresh Thunderhead, and maxes out your Astral Fire to whatever the highest state you have available is, which at this level is Astral Fire 2. Effectively, it resets your Fire state to its optimal starting position. This of course allows you to spam Fire 1 more. Whenever Manafont is available, instead of using Transpose when you're out of MP, use Manafont and repeat your Astral Fire state as normal, simply skipping an Umbral Ice state. At level 35, you learn the trait Aspect Mastery 3, which unlocks access to Umbral Ice 3 and Astral Fire 3, which have the following effects compared to their Stage 2 equivalents as shown. The key differences is that Umbral Ice 3 fully maxes out your MP with a single ice spell, and Astral Fire 3 does even more damage. Being in the third stage of either state also causes the spells from the opposite element to take half the time to cast. You also learn the spells Blizzard 3 and Fire 3, or B3 and F3, which both have significantly higher cast times and MP costs than Blizzard 1 and Fire 1, and not the damage to compensate for it. Their main purpose is that they also allow you to instantly switch to Stage 3 of Umbral Ice or Astral Fire. On top of this, their long cast times are a non-issue due to the Stage 3 bonus of cutting the cast time in half of the opposite element. Blizzard 3 and Fire 3 should only be used to switch state, and they are not worth casting in other situations than that. This means that your rotation now involves casting Fire 3 to start, then Fire 1 until you can't anymore, then Blizzard 3 and a single Blizzard 1, and then repeat. Thunder should be used if it is available, and the dot it applies is either not present on your target or is running out. It can also be used as an instant option if you want to use an ability or need to reposition or attack on the move. To clarify, this means that you should start a fight by using Thunder as soon as possible, and after that, save it for movement to maintain the dot, or weaving, meaning using an ability between casts. Notably, Fire 2 and Blizzard 2 get the same properties as Blizzard 3 and Fire 3, in that they instantly max out your current state, meaning that you don't need to use Transpose on AoE either. This also means you only have to use Thunder 2 if the dot is running out or you need to attack while moving, as Blizzard 2 and 3 and Fire 2 and 3 are reasonably fast to cast when switching element and grant access to a Thunder spell. If your group is actively on the move while fighting, you can use these spells to quickly alternate to access Thunder more frequently, which could be better than doing nothing while simply running. At level 40, you learn the spell Freeze, which does more damage than Blizzard 2, but can only be used while in Umbral Ice state. Freeze also does not refresh your Umbral Ice state, unlike Blizzard 2, as you only need to cast a single ice spell to fully recover your MP while in Umbral Ice 3. Your AoE ice state now mainly involves casting Blizzard 2 and a single Freeze before you go back to Fire. Take note that while Freeze is slightly stronger than Blizzard 1 with 2 targets present, the slightly longer cast time makes it not really worth it due to delaying your Astral Fire state, so wait with Freeze until there are at least 3 targets in my opinion. At level 42, you learn the trait Firestarter, which gives your Fire 1 a high chance of making your next Fire 3 cast free and instant. If you pay attention to your hotbars, you can see the dashed lines around Fire 3 indicating this so-called proc about half a second before your cast of Fire 1 finishes. And you can, and should, immediately use this proc at no loss. If you don't catch the proc in time and are already busy casting another spell, don't cancel and simply use Fire 3 after that spell instead. At level 44, you learn the role action and ability Surecast. This ability makes you immune to most knockbacks, but also makes you immune to interruption as a result of damage. What this means is that sometimes when you're hit with a particularly powerful attack, your casting is stopped. This cannot happen when Surecast is active. At level 45, Thunder 1 permanently upgrades to Thunder 3, which slightly increases its duration and also increases its overall damage somewhat. This does, however, not change anything about how you use it, as I still recommend using Thunder 2 on 3 or more targets. If you're alternating states frequently to attack while on the move, it may be worth using Thunder 3 and just alternating targets on 3 or maybe even 4 targets rather than using Thunder 2. At level 50, you learn the ability Ethereal Manipulation, which allows you to quickly teleport to the exact position of any other player in your party. You should practice the use of this ability a lot, as it is crucial to optimizing your play as a Black Mage. You also learn the spell Flare, which can only be used in Astral Fire and is affected by it, and when cast, immediately spends all the MP you have. An interesting detail about Flare is that as long as you have at least 800 MP, it will let you use it. You should always make sure to finish every AoE Astral Fire state with Flare. For single target, Flare is not really worth using to cap off Astral Fire, unless you can pair it with Swift Cast to skip the enormous cast time, which additionally should only be done after an instant spell like Thunder or Firestarter 3, preferably only such a cast that you would have done anyway. You should not save Firestarter specifically for this. Flare is very much worth finishing Astral Fire states with on 2 or more targets, without Swift Cast. Note that under most circumstances, you will finish your Astral Fire state with a Fire 1 cast going from 2000 MP to 400 MP, and if you had an instant cast just before this Fire 1, Swift casting a Flare would be slightly beneficial, assuming you won't need this Swift cast for anything else. Now, to round off, let's cover an actual boss fight opener and rotation. Start by casting Fire 3, then spam Fire 1 using procs as you get them. When you hit 1600 MP, use Thunder 3, Swift Cast, and then use Flare followed by Manafont, and continue with more Fire 1s and using procs as you get them. This then leads to the general rotation. The Umbral Ice state is initiated with Blizzard 3 followed by 1 Blizzard 1, and then promptly exited with Fire 3. The Astral Fire state is initiated with Fire 3 and fills with Fire 1s while using any Firestarter procs as soon as you get them. In either state, make sure to use Thunder if the Thunder dot is about to run out on your target, and if there's multiple targets, try to maintain the dot on all of them, meaning Thunder 3 on 2 enemies, or Thunder 2 on 3 or more enemies. If you need an instant spell to weave something such as Manafont, it may be beneficial to reapply Thunder during Umbral Ice such that you have the Thunderhead to weave at the end of Astral Fire, without letting Thunder drop off your target. On 3 or more targets, replace Thunder 3 with Thunder 2, replace Fire 1 and 3 with Fire 2, and replace Blizzard 3 with Blizzard 2 and Blizzard 1 with Freeze. Always finish Astral Fire states with a Flare on 2 or more targets, and make sure to maintain Thunder dots on your targets. Just like on single target, you can fully finish an Astral Fire state with Thunder 2 and then Manafont to start it again from the beginning. Finally, if you have an ether that grants at least 800 MP, any high quality ether will do, or anything above Mega Ether for normal quality. You can use this to cast an additional Flare. Remember that Swift casting Flare is always great due to skipping its longer cast time. Now, that is all for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to support me and my channel more directly, you can become a member like these wonderful people here. You can also alternatively support me through Ko-Fi, link in the description. You can also support the channel by letting the YouTube algorithm know by liking the video, leaving a comment, subscribing, sharing, and hitting the bell to get notified when next I post a video. Fun fact: before Dawntrail, Thunder relied on a random chance activation originating from the dot itself to become instant and free and also deal way more damage. This caused the level 50 rotation to be very random and proc heavy, where you had 2 procs you had to react to as they came, making Black Mage feel simultaneously very stiff and very mobile, depending on whether luck smiled upon you or not.